discussed last time what is Lie algebra. I defined Lie algebra. I defined a representation. Okay. So now I will quickly go through stuff which are basically valid for all representation theory. Okay. So we will say equivalence of representations. Okay. So here given two representations, okay, I call it Ti, I equal to 1 2 of a Lie algebra L, okay, on vector spaces V1 V2 Vi we say they are equivalent okay, if there exists an invertible linear transformation T from V1 to V2, okay, such that if I act first at T1 with an element of the Lie algebra L and act T, this is T2 of L T. Okay. So here first I act on V1 with this one, apply T, I am in V2, or I first map to V2 and then act at T2. Okay. Or we can write this, that is the same as writing T2 of L is T T1L T inverse. Okay. Only generality is there is no reason why the two vector spaces are the same. You can go from one vector space to another. Okay. So this is the notion of equivalence. Okay. And we should write irreducibility. Okay. Reducibility. A representation let us say T of L on V is reducible if there exists a subspace V1 contained in V, okay, invariant under T. That is TL on any TL acting on any vector in V is in V, V1, V1, small V1 if V1 is in V1. So that is briefly said by this statement here. Okay. It is completely reducible if there exists V2 also invariant by T such that V is direct sum of V1 plus V2. Okay. Exactly as in the case of groups. I don't have to keep just this for recollecting quickly. It is irreducible IRR if there are no non-trivial invariant subspace under T except 0 and V. In V, okay. Non-trivial means that is except. So all these are exactly the same as previously. Okay. And then we also have Schu's lemma. Okay. Schu's lemma is the same as the old one. Okay. It says the following. Okay. Schu's lemma I can actually go back to, okay, if Ti are the two parts IRS of a Lie algebra L on Vi and T from V1 to V2 fulfills this IRS irreducible, okay, fulfills, okay, T1L is T2LT, then either T equal to 0 or okay, B T is invertible and representations are equivalent. Okay. This is exactly, the proofs are the same as in the previous case, okay, the group case. These are true for all algebras, all representations of any irreducible set of operators. Okay. Secondly, okay, in above, if V1 equal to V2, that means T commutes with all the matrices of the representation, then T is some constant times the identity. The only operator which will commute with all matrices of the irreducible representation are multiples of the identity. I will not do any proof because it is the same as previous one. Okay. Okay. So example, you may know little bit of angular momentum. Do you know some angular momentum theory? Angular momentum G. Okay. Then for the Lie algebra, L with basis L alpha, let me write like this, where the bracket is L alpha L beta is epsilon alpha beta gamma L gamma there are infinitely many IRRs, okay, labeled by angular momentum J, and J takes values 0, half, 1. Okay. So this is a quantum mechanical thing, we will do it explicitly later. Okay. This is, if you know some quantum mechanics, this is a standard calculation you deduct. Okay. For angular momentum, if Jj are 2j plus 1 times 2j plus 1 angular momentum matrices, then we should say Jj alpha, then okay, this L alpha, this abstractly going to minus I J alpha j gives IRR. This minus I is because this J alpha, well, so here, okay, note the conventional thing is J alpha j, J beta j, you put an I here, I epsilon alpha beta gamma J gamma j, there is an I here, right. So and this is where matrices are Hermitian, they are anti-Hermitian, but the anti-Hermitian choice there are no I's, okay. So it is for this reason that the I's are put there. Okay. Now, okay, I am going to take a slight, let me see one moment. I am trying to figure out, yeah, what is the next thing I am supposed to do. Yeah, it is here. Yeah. Now I am going to do the basic ideas. Okay. So I am going to go from Lie groups to Lie algebras. Okay. I will show you, I will not prove things, but I will try to give you a feeling, and I will show you how to go backwards. Okay. So from representations of Lie algebras, how to recover those of Lie groups. Okay. Then we will apply it to examples. Okay. In particular, I will cover SU3. Okay. I will certainly cover angular momentum, but I will also cover SU3 because of its importance for quantum field theory, standard model. Okay. So how do I do this? Okay. The statement here is, first I should tell you one parameter subgroups. For that, consider the following, okay? A definition. A path in a Lie group G0, okay, is a, let's write, smooth map, okay, T, okay, to G of T. So this is in the group. T is simply a point of the real line. Okay, it's just a curve. This is a curve in the group G, in the connected component of G0. Okay, it is a one parameter subgroup if it is a case that G of T1, G of T2 is G of T1 plus T2. Okay, and we choose G of 0 to be the identity conventionally. Okay. So it is one parameter subgroup is, let me give you an example. Okay. Let's take the group SO3. So consider R of T, which is of the form, I'll write this exponential IT, okay, R of T exponential IT n dot, say n dot the angular momentum operator J. So this is rotation around n axis by angle T. Okay, this is rotation by T around axis n. Okay. Clearly R of T1, R of T2 is R of T1 plus T2. Okay. So this is a, so this set here R of T is a one parameter subgroup. Now, what is the next step? Okay. Next step to notice is that this is a theorem which I did not prove. Okay. It's much harder to prove. It is proved in this book of many places, but if you look in Thalmann, this is a Benjamin book, small book, there is a proof from beginner's lectures. Okay. Statement is every element in group germ, okay, okay, lies on a one parameter subgroup. There is a neighborhood group germ, okay, that is there exists, okay, a neighborhood of identity where that is so. So your identity here says that you can choose some small neighborhood which I will call the group germ, and each of these things, each here lies on one parameter subgroups like so. Okay. This is a much somewhat harder theorem to prove because you have to solve some differential equations. Basically, if you are given, you have to show that given the tangent of the origin of any such curve, I can generate the whole curve by solving some differential equation. Okay? And these people prove it. Now, example, I gave you example here for SO3, okay, but it's a fact that if this is a fact, if G0 is compact, okay, so it's connected, every element, every G lies on a one parameter subgroup. That is for SO3, okay, not so, okay, not always so. If G0 is not compact. Okay. Thalmann gives an example from SL2R. SL2R is the two-dimensional Lorentz group, 2 plus 1, 2 space in one time, okay, and Thalmann's book here gives an example due to Wigner of an element in SL2R which cannot be written as an exponential. Okay. But for SO3, okay, thus for SO3, for R in SO3, so let me prove this result, okay, for a fun. You know Euler's theorem. Euler's theorem says, okay, Euler says every rotation leaves an axis fixed. Every rotation, they say old is one of the fixed point theorems. If you make any rotation on a sphere, it will leave an axis fixed. The way you prove it is by looking at the eigenvalues of R. Okay, if you know it. Okay, it's a nice theorem. Okay, so axis n hat. So it is a rotation around n hat. Okay. And hence of form some exponential I t n hat dot j, okay, which proves the result. So the one parameter subgroup, if you know a little bit of Riemannian geometry, there is something called Riemann normal coordinates around in any Riemannian manifold around any point given the metric you can introduce Riemann normal coordinates. Okay, so what you do is you go from that point along a geodesic least distance direction and give the coordinate to that point depending on the distance you go for the metric. That's what we are doing. This if you take the origin, okay, so in a small neighborhood, every point can be parameterized by a direction and a distance, right? The direction in which the one parameter group is going and the amount t by which I had to move from the origin. Okay, this will be the exact analog of the Riemann normal coordinate in differential geometry, or people doing computations when you compute Riemann tensor. This is used very often. Okay, so this is exactly the same. These lines I am writing can be interpreted as geodesics, the shortest distance paths in Lie groups. Okay, okay, so that's a remark, side remark here. Now the following is true. Okay, okay. Now the second thing is the following. Okay, okay. Now the one parameter subgroup is completely fixed by its tangent as origin. At E. It's almost clear because I will take off from there in the direction of the tangent. Okay, for example, this SO3, and I look at R of t, okay, which is exponential I t n hat dot j. Okay. The tangent at the origin in local coordinates is tangent at origin at E is equal to, the local coordinate will be this, so it is just n. Yeah. Huh.
So isn't this obvious from say that group germ, which is a neighborhood, can be thought of as a patch in Rn?
It is a, yeah, it is a patch in Rn.
And any point will have some coordinates.
In that patch there will be local coordinates, sure.
Coordinates, yes. And I can think of the local coordinates as a one parameter subgroup.
That you cannot do. That you cannot do, because the group tells you how to compose the parameters, right? If you write g of x of t1, g of x of t2, where x is a local coordinate, it may not be g of x of t1 plus t2. You don't know that, right? Okay. So
the coordinate system may not
be compatible with the one parameter property. So the hard part is that one. Okay. So it requires some proof. It is not obvious. Okay. Okay. then another thing, theorem is also for every tangent at origin at E, okay, say every tangent psi at E, okay, there exists a one parameter subgroup okay, you may call it G of A tau T, okay. So G of A tau T introduce local coordinates T1, G of A tau of T2 is G of A tau T1 plus T2, okay. So this is what I called previously I call this whole thing, but I introduce a local coordinate now, okay. For every tangent psi is a local coordinate, there exists a one parameter subgroup okay, okay, such with psi as is psi as tangent. That is eta dot at 0 is psi. Okay. So there are one parameter subgroups taking off in all directions, okay, in G0 at the identity. Okay. So the set out the tangent space at the identity label all the one parameter subgroups. Okay. So there are as many okay. So the space of these tangents is equal to dimension of the Lie group, right. In fact, these tangents are in fact the tangent space at G0 identity. Okay. This thing here, the space of these tangents, the way they will write is the tangent space as the identity of the group G0, right. There is a tangent space at the identity of this manifold which I call G0 is in fact should be equal to G0. There are things going off in every direction. Okay. Now the question is, how do I incorporate information about the product law in G0 in these tangents? The question is, how do we, until now it is a purely you don't know, I mean there may be two different Lie groups the same dimension. At this level I cannot tell them apart. Okay. So how do we incorporate the information of product rule on G0? Okay. Until now that information is only very vaguely there. Okay. So how do I do? That is where the structure constants come. Okay. So that's what I am going to do. Consider some G in some local coordinates psi, let me call it some local coordinates x, okay, like x are local coordinates and I multiply by gy. So x and y are local coordinates. Local means in this patch these are the coordinates. This is going to be some g of phi of x. So this is the way this coordinates encompass a group law. Now set C alpha beta gamma, okay, as d2 phi alpha of xy or dx beta dx gamma at x equal to 0, dy gamma at x and y equal to 0. Okay. It is clearly, I should say, is a minus sign. Wait, I should antisymmetrize maybe. Yeah, I forgot. It should be antisymmetrized. That is minus beta gamma, okay, xy equal to 0. Okay. Then C alpha beta gamma is minus C alpha gamma beta by construction. But what is far less trivial is fulfills Jacobi identity due to associative law of group multiplication. That is, you write g of x, g of y, g of z, three of them, and put brackets in different ways, you get an identity of the phi's. By differentiating it, you will get this equation. Okay. The proof is not long, but you need patience, like this kind of proof. And the one I saw is actually some lectures by Pauli lectures. I don't know if it is available at Princeton. Long ago. If it is available, it is certainly worth looking. And there are Raka lectures. Some lectures, again I think in Princeton. I used to have them, but I doubt that I have it now. Okay. These are old, small, maybe 80 pages. So Pauli at that time expounds his ideas on Lie groups and Lie algebras, which were just coming into prominence at that time. Okay. So this stuff here incorporates somehow the associative law of the group. Okay. I will show you how to calculate it without going through these phi's in most cases. Okay. Otherwise it will become a hardship, because computing these local coordinates, it's not very nice, but there are some other rules. Okay. So now convert T of G0, it's a space of tangents at the origin of G0, it's a vector space which is a space that tangents to one parameter subgroups by setting psi eta, say two, say local coordinates x y. I have to give you the component alpha of x y, and I set this as C alpha beta gamma x beta y gamma. I convert T, which is vector space, okay, into a Lie algebra. Okay. Then what we will go towards is, from this Lie algebra, from the representation of this vector space with this Lie algebra structure, we can recover the Lie group. That is the idea. Okay. So let me put this. Idea is, okay. No, okay. Now before I tell the idea, okay, let me say something else. Then it will become very clear. Theorem. This is most important for matrix groups. Okay. Suppose the group is given by matrices, okay. Then let me put it in the way I have written here. Every one parameter subgroup is of the form exponential t times some m. M is some fixed matrix. Okay. We will be able to easily find out what are the allowed m's. Okay. Where the allowed m's, this is the most important thing. Okay. Form a Lie algebra okay, under commutation. Under a matrix commutation. Okay. We will see that it closes. Okay. This Lie algebra is isomorphic to the one using local coordinates. Okay. Emphasis, this is how we usually find the Lie algebra. We don't normally go through the other one. By the way, this is interesting. One of the earliest set of lectures on Lie algebras and Lie groups was given right here in math science. Okay. By the lectures I think are available here, and it is due to Lachlan O'Rafferty. It's called lectures on local Lie groups. I think it's called Laughlin. O'Rafferty. I think it is around 66. It is must be here. It was an IMSC publication long ago. Okay, and it is one of the very first in this whole business. Okay, 60. Yes. 64. 60. See, this interest in Lie groups and Lie algebras because of particle physics started around that time, and Laughlin did a systematic review of Lie-Cartha theory in a form adapted to physicists. Okay, so he classifies all Lie groups, Lie algebras, this stuff like G2. Okay, I think people doing string theory nowadays get involved in exceptional groups, E8, G2, all kinds of. He discusses all those things there, and just before a couple of years before that, I think 1964, 62, Salam, a 3 essay. This is also this goes in another way. Okay, classification of Lie algebras using what is called Dynkin diagrams. He was among the first person to find out that these diagrams are very useful. Nowadays this is used in many places. Okay, for example, people doing conformal field theories. Okay, so he reviews it using some publication from the then Soviet Union, and Laughlin talks about this thing here. Okay, Laughlin is much more pedagogical, slowly goes. Okay, okay, that reminds. Now this is very useful. So let me see what happens. Okay, example. Let me consider the group SO3. Okay. I want to find out R is in SO3 implies R transpose R is 1. Okay. If R or T, okay, this is the form exponential Tm, so it is a one parameter subgroup. I apply this, you know that R transpose R equal to 1 implies exponential T, okay, m exponential T m transpose is equal to 1. Yeah, if you want like this. Okay, expanding power is at T. Okay, implies expanding power is at T. Okay, you get m transpose plus m is 0. So m is antisymmetric, but R is real, which implies m is real. Okay, so m is real and antisymmetric. So any m is equal to is a linear combination of antisymmetric matrices. Okay, we found what they are. They are of the form psi alpha L alpha. Okay, L alpha ij is minus alpha epsilon this object here, which we found earlier. This is a convenient basis. So the Lie algebra is defined. Okay, so the commutation. So we can write down the commutator commutator closes, M say, so this commutator psi alpha L alpha eta beta L beta, okay, is psi alpha eta beta times this commutator this with this, which is epsilon alpha beta gamma L gamma. Okay. So the bracket closes on antisymmetric matrices. This is not obvious. It is related to his question. The fact that it closes is not obvious. In local coordinates we will write we will just look at this thing psi eta, okay, gamma will be what is sitting in front here, epsilon alpha beta gamma psi alpha eta beta. So if I introduce local coordinates, namely the size, on the Lie algebra or on the matrix when you exponentiate it, the corresponding Lie bracket will be this. Okay. Instead of writing like this, I write in terms of the matrices, and that is very often extremely easy to find out. Okay. Now what we are going to do is, okay, the following. The way we recover the group is okay, we can calculate this object exponential say Tm exponential T prime n, okay, the product using, okay, the Baker-Campbell-Hausdorff formula. You know what is it, right? And Lie bracket. Tell what this is in terms of the original elements. I don't need to know that these are 3 by 3 matrices. Okay. So the fact that I have a Lie bracket which is closing tells me how to take products on the group by the exponential map. So I take the Lie algebra and write the exponential map. I have this. Another exponential map, I have this. I know how to take products, and that will close. I mean, I can calculate it. Okay. So I have a group, okay, namely the group generated by all the 1 parameters of groups. Okay. It's like an Euler-Angle product. I'll get a lot of terms, but I can calculate it in principle. So I know I don't have to calculate it because I know it will come out. So the answer to your question is that it is a Lie bracket which tells you the composition rules of the group. Okay. That is, without the Lie bracket I cannot do it. Okay. And the way the route from Lie algebra to Lie group is the exponential map of each element plus the Baker-Campbell-Hausdorff formula. Okay. There, that in that way I can recover the whole group. Okay. Now comes I should look at more and more examples. Okay. Yeah, but let me see. If you like theorem, given a Lie algebra L, let me say, okay, with okay, structure constants C. So I should write here from Lie algebra to Lie groups. Now I am going to take the backward passage. Okay. So the structure group is structure constants are given. There exists a Lie group G0 with a phi is a composition of local coordinates given these C's, giving the above C's, these C's. Okay. This is among the hardest theorems to prove. This is the Lie-Cartan theory, that is, Lie-Cartan, the whole program was how to go backwards. That involved solving really nonlinear partial differential equations, which they did. Okay. I don't know who did it, is it Cartan or Lie, I don't remember. Lie, I think Lie. Okay. Namely, you take any Lie algebra with a structure, given structure constant fulfilling Jacobi identity and so on. And the claim is there exists a Lie group, okay, of which these are the structure constants. So I showed you that if you give me a Lie group a priori, I can compute a Lie algebra from its composition laws. Okay. Now I am telling you that the connection is deeper, that if you give me a Lie algebra, I can find a Lie group of which these are the structure constants. Okay. So this is correct. Okay, I will come next time, I will remark. One is G0 is not globally unique. May not be. This I can discuss in a clear way. Okay. You may get more than one Lie group globally from a given Lie algebra. In fact, you may get a whole lot of it. That is much easier to understand and control. Secondly, okay, in non-compact case, okay, let me say, okay, there are issues of defining the so-called exponential map. This is called the exponential map. What is exponential map? From the Lie algebra, take an L. The exponential map is just replace it by exponential of L. Okay, and this is supposed to go to some group. Okay. So what we are doing is taking this L and exponentiating it. Right? T I put here, but that can be absorbed in the L definition of L. This is a vector space. But to define this, for example, when I compose this, I have to use Baker-Campbell-Hausdorff formula. So there are infinite series you get. Okay? So there are questions of convergence, and in the non-compact case, they become issues. I mean, you cannot, in fact, things can and will diverge in many cases. Okay? In the non-compact case, I mean, compact case, finite dimensional matrix is no problem, but if you deal with infinite dimensional cases like Poincare group, there is a non-trivial issue of convergence. Okay? And controlling these convergences and seeing what happens has been one of the big problems, okay, in understanding non-compact groups. I mentioned this works of people like Harishchandra. Okay, they made their name. Also people like Gelfand. Okay, all these big names. Okay, working in representation theory. One of the major issues is exactly this meaning of this exponential map. Okay, so this gets completely messed up with operator theory. Okay, group theory gets completely, you get a big masala with operators, their domains. When you define, can I multiply two operators? On what kind of domains can I multiply two operators and exponentiate? All these issues come. But the thing I wanted to tell, so I just want to mention this, but this map is called the exponential map. Okay, and it is supposed to be onto a neighborhood of the group germ. This exponential map is onto this small neighborhood of the identity, okay, or the group. If you go from the group to the Lie algebra, then the exponential map maps you from the Lie algebra, the tangent space, to a small neighborhood of the identity of the group. Okay, so this is called the exponential map. It is the same map that underlies this Riemann normal coordinates in gravity. Okay, but if you are just given a Lie algebra and ask when can I exponentiate, then unless you already know there is a group, okay, it leads you to all kinds of problems, okay, of which I have only vague control. So next time I will pursue this and show you when this non-uniqueness comes. What is the reason for this non-uniqueness? Well, SO3 and SU2 is a canonical example, and that will bring us to topological ideas like connectivity of a Lie group. Okay, so I will explain that to you. Okay, then I will hopefully start doing actual representation theory of Lie algebras. Okay, you already should see that this is very general. So if I take a representation of a Lie algebra, that is also a Lie algebra. So I can also exponentiate it. Okay, I will again get a Lie group. Okay, what is the relationship of that Lie group to the original one? Okay, I start from some G0, find a Lie algebra, find a representation. It is isomorphic Lie algebra. I exponentiate it. Do I get back some representation of G0 or what happens? Okay, you have no guarantee exactly what will happen. No, so anyway, that kind of question we will deal with and show that in fact you can use it effectively to find representations of the Lie group itself. Okay.